Be the right club. Be the right club today. Yes!
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Be the Right Club Today podcast. Our next guest is super special, 12-time PGA Tour winner. He was a 2-time PGA Tour Comeback Player of the Year. He was the captain of the winning 2021 Ryder Cup team, and coming off some health scares, but he seems to be on the mend now, Mr. Steve Stricker. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, Chase, thanks for having me. Hal, thanks for having me. It's been a while since I've seen you, so good to see you, my friend. And yeah, thanks for having me on.
Steve, we're excited to have you on. I know a lot of our guests are interested in quite a few things that you might have to say right now with the Ryder Cup going the positive direction for the U.S. All the people out there were excited about it. So why don't you share with us your general thoughts about the Ryder Cup and what you thought of Whistling Straits as a venue for it?
Sure. Well, it couldn't have gone any better, right? I mean, we set a scoring record. The guys had a wonderful time. The camaraderie amongst our players was one of the best I've seen. We made picks based on how guys would get along with one another. You know, I think that was a big part of our picks leading up to the Ryder Cup, along with the guys playing well and guys that we thought fit Whistling Straits, because it's a big hitters golf course. So we wanted guys that would hit it long and playing well and get along with each other. So it was a great team. I was fortunate, never thought I'd have that opportunity. You know how special of an opportunity that is, Hal. And I never thought I'd have that opportunity, but to have it there at Whistling Straits in my home state, and to win in that type of fashion that we did was really, really pretty special.
Awesome. So, encounter any unusual thing while you were there? I know, having been a Ryder Cup captain, there's unexpected things all the time. Did you have anything like that?
Not too many. We had one probably Saturday afternoon. We had Justin Thomas going back out in the afternoon on Saturday, going to play with Jordan. And to be quite honest, we heard it from a few people that Justin looked tired. He was hitting some shots that weren't typical of Justin Thomas. So we pulled him out, and Jordan and him, they took it well, but when you think you're going to go back out in the afternoon, it's a little bit of a shock. But we threw Brooks Koepka in with Jordan, and that was a little bit of a surprise. But we did some different things. We got guys on the same page early in the week. I told them what was going to happen on Monday for Friday, so we could prepare for the week. Guys were ready for their format, so we knew what we were going to do Friday right away on Monday. And those guys, like I said, were playing great coming in. It's a different breed. You've seen it, Hal. It's a different breed. These guys have proven themselves on the big stage already at a young age. And they came into this Ryder Cup with a ton of confidence, playing well, and they didn't back down.
Do you think, Steve, that's kind of a blueprint going forward for future captains, trying to, kind of let the players know who they're going to be playing with early on, kind of have a game plan early on to let them prepare? Or, do you think that, how big of a role do you think that played in the success of them playing so well?
I don't know how big a role it played, but I think it's always good to know kind of the plan going forward. I think throwing guys a curveball. I've been an assistant captain on maybe 4 or 5 other teams, and that hasn't gone over well when guys get thrown a curveball. So my goal was to get everybody, along with the assistant captains, what role they were playing, and just to get everybody on the same page, to know what was going on. so they could prepare for the week and not really get thrown any curveballs. And but these guys are just good, and we had a practice round early, all these guys. We missed one guy for the practice round. That was Brooks Koepka. He was out with injury. Otherwise, every player came along with every assistant captain. So that shows you their level of commitment and willingness to get a little bit of an advantage when we could. And they showed up and then prepared that week ahead of time and then came back knowing what to do that next week.
So I'm curious, I got a lot of criticism for putting Tiger and Phil together back a long time ago. And you had the Brooks and the Bryson feud going on. Was there ever any consideration of putting them together?
Oh yeah, there sure was. And there wasn't to start with, but they both came to me with the willingness to be paired with each other. So that tells you right there how close this team was. And they both came to me saying, we'll do whatever's in the best interest of the team. We're here for you. We will play together. So we had that in our back pocket. And it was there for us to use. I didn't really want to use it because I thought that story, and you found that out, Hal, right? And I even took your situation and thought about it. But that story becomes bigger than the story itself, right? I mean, if those two guys, Brooks and Bryson, would have been paired together, that story would have been bigger than the team, bigger than the Ryder Cup, because they would have gotten all the attention. So we had that if we wanted to use it, if we were down, to provide a spark, to have that was really cool on their part to come forward like that and to put everything aside if we wanted to use them.
So it's interesting you bring that up, because I had in my mind before we ever went up there that I was going to pair Tiger and Phil together. But I never told anyone, not even the assistant captains, because I didn't want it to become a bigger story than the Ryder Cup.
Right.
Until the last minute, when you have to announce that it's going to be that way, and of course, Phil was angry with me all the time because I didn't do it. But I mean, Tiger never said a word about who he was going to be playing with. He didn't care. When you're really, really good, you don't care.
Right.
Just show me the golf course in the first tee and let me show you where I'm going with it.
Yeah, no doubt. So, and there's a lot of guys like that. And on this team specifically that I can talk about, these guys showed a willingness to be with anybody for the most part. There's always a couple guys where those pairings aren't going to work, right? But for the most part, these guys were like, hey, you put me with anybody. But I had these groups kind of together weeks ahead of time. And I kept calling these guys and I said, this is what I'm thinking about. It's not set in stone, but how do you like it? I did a lot of communicating with these guys leading up to it, just to make sure that they were good in their groups and not really deviate much from that, especially in the foursomes, in that alternate shot. You want to make sure that guy's comfortable. And then, with Tiger helping from afar and all my assistant captains, we had calls all the time to kind of get these groups going and put it in place. And so the communication amongst all of us, especially the assistant captains, they were great. Tiger, that was another thing, where he was helping us all along leading up to the Ryder Cup from home, right? We would get on these Zoom calls just like we're doing now. And he's laying in his bed, just can't really move, and helping us out with pairings and what he's hearing from his guys down there. And then, he was going to be an assistant captain. He was going to be there with us. And again, he knew that his story was going to be bigger than the Ryder Cup. And he didn't want to lead, or he didn't want to have that become a problem amongst the team, to be a distraction amongst the guys. So he's like, I'm better just staying home. So we knew, and that's just the kind of guy he is. He's been really good when it comes to being assistant. I was a part of with him up at Davis Hazeltine when Davis was a captain, and he was an assistant up there, and he's a better assistant than he is a player, if you can believe that.
Steve, do you think that this group was, from the outside watching, it seemed like this group was a really tight knit group? Do you feel like that was the case? And do you think, because one of the things that we've always thought, Europeans tended to play better in the Ryder Cup, at least the last 4 or 5 Ryder Cups, because, they've traveled together, they grew up together, they've just been a closer group than the Americans, and you've played on a bunch of teams too. Do you think that narrative has any merit at all? And do you think that this group was in fact as tight as it looked like on TV?
They were really tight. A lot of these guys grew up playing amateur golf together, college golf together, even junior golf together. Some of these guys did, or they knew of each other at that age. I think that's a little bit of BS when I hear that that these teams aren't close knit. I don't know what your experiences were, Hal, over the years, but all the teams I've been a part of, I thought the guys got along very well and were willing to do anything for the team. I've never really, there may be a guy or two like what we came into with Bryson and Brooks that you don't want to put together. But for the most part, everybody's there, to achieve that one goal. And I just have never found that to be the case. I think if anything, sometimes we have felt too much pressure and maybe we're expected to win. That Europeans play that underdog role. They play it very well. They're very good players. They had seemed to make all the right shots and all the right putts, of late. But I think all the teams I've been a part of, the team has been very cohesive, and this was no different. I would say this last one was probably the closest knit of all the teams I've been on, just because of the guys, like I said, playing together, and they were young and they've known each other for a long time. And but it's for the most part, it's always been like that.
So one of the things that I think is there wasn't as big a discrepancy in age for your team. Everybody was near the same age. A lot of the teams that I was part of, there was a lot, there were 20, 25 years of difference in age.
Yeah.
That's a couple of generations right there. They don't think alike at that point. And I mean, you agree with that? You're shaking your head. Yes.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I mean, like I said, these guys grew up with one another, and you're right. I was a part of a team when I was, fairly young, and, you're playing with 40-some-year-old guys or upper 30s guys that you've watched on TV for the last 10 years, and you really don't know them. And, you're just maybe coming into your own or whatever. And then you may even be a little bit intimidated by your partner, and that wasn't the case here. These guys are showing off against one another. They're like, oh, I'm going to beat you. And I'm going to hit it inside you. And, the practice rounds were really light. The week before was really, really light. I mean, they just had a good time with one another. And I think that week before, if there was one thing that we could do on a yearly basis, and it's hard, especially when you go overseas, to get everybody together. But I think that really got these guys together, kind of broke the ice. It's like a new girlfriend, right? I mean, it's just like you get that out of the way that week before, and then when you see that person the next week, you're already comfortable with that person, and you're ready to go. So yeah, these guys, I think you're right. The age difference was that's a spot on thought you had there, Hal, because they're so good with each other, and they played with each other for so long.
Well, let's talk about Steve Stricker for a little bit instead of the Ryder Cup.
I don't
know
mind
your
talking
health.
about that Ryder Cup.
Everybody likes talking about the Ryder Cup, but we've been friends for a long time, Steve. We've got some common hobbies. I know you love to hunt and you love the outdoors. But let's talk about Steve Stricker, the golfer, for a minute. You've done so many things. You've had such a great career. You've won at will on the Champions Tour. And I know you've been sick, but what are your goals going forward?
Yeah, my goal is to get better. First of all, I've got a ways to go. We've talked about that a little bit off camera a little bit, where, I've lost a bunch of weight. I'm down about 20, 25 pounds now. I put some on, had a little bit of a health scare in the fall, but knock on wood, things are going in the right direction. And it's probably going to take me, a couple of months yet just to get my strength. I hit a couple drivers the other day, of my daughter's, she hits it out there about 230, and that's about all I could hit it, her regular shaft, but I just had a hard time, with strength. And you don't realize how many muscles you use when you start to swing the golf club. And I just lost, so much muscle and all my fat, I look like an 85-year-old guy with skin hanging off me. So it's a challenge. And it's going to take a couple of months. I'm not going to go back out there until I feel strong and be able to walk. I don't want to go in a cart. So I've, got some challenges. I got another MRI coming up at the end of this month to see if this inflammation around my heart has gone away, and then I can hopefully get back after it. But I'm feeling better. I'm eating a little bit better and starting to put a little weight on, I think. But I want to get out there and play. I love to play. I love the competition and get back out there and play some on that Champions Tour.
Well, so I'm going to stretch you a little bit here. You're not a participator. You like to win. So
yeah.
I know you like to win. So when you go back, I'm certain, I'm not putting words in your mouth here. I know you want to go back out there to compete. And that's why you don't want to just go say hi to everybody.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I don't. And that's what I told my wife and daughters, they're like, when are you going to get back out there? You can go in a cart. And I'm like, listen, I'm not going to go out there so I can dink it around and shoot 73 or 4, or even par. I'm going to go out there when I'm ready and then strong enough and hitting it like I was hitting it before I left, because I think that's where I can get back to. I think I can get back to that strength, that distance. I was in good shape going into this sickness, this little health scare. So I don't think there's any reason for me not to think that I can't get back to that strength if everything is okay. So that's my plan, is to get back full strength and then go out there so I can compete right away.
Well, a little advice, which you don't need any, you get it from everybody. But one thing that I do know something about is I played for a while hurting and not prepared. And I took on some bad habits because I still trying to score, even though I couldn't get in certain positions. And, I ended up hurting other things by doing that. And, if I had it to do over again, I went ahead and got my hip replaced immediately instead of playing with a bad hip for a long time. So get yourself healthy before you go back out there, and then go back out there with your deep will to win.
I appreciate that. And I'll take that for sure to heart. And I know that a lot of guys, it's easy to do, right? I mean, we're all competitors and we all I can go out there and make it happen. I'll get it around somehow. And then all of a sudden, because your hip is bothering you or you're not as strong, you start putting that club in a different position than what you're used to. And then you start compensating, right? And how many times we've all heard that story. So my goal is to go back out there as strong or better than I left.
Steve, you were back-to-back comeback player of the year on the PGA Tour. I don't think that's ever been done, and maybe won't ever be done again. I want you to talk. We talk a lot on here about mindset and how difficult this game is, and fighting back from struggles. And you went through some, let's say, quote unquote, some dark times and lost your card and had to fight back, and you fought back all the way to number 2 player in the world. Talk a little bit about how you did it, what you had to overcome, even if you get technical with like golf swing wise, like what did you have to do to get your game back?
Yeah, first of all, I had to realize that that's what I wanted to do. I thought about, well, shoot, I could just be happy with playing my 10, 12 events a year. When my category got in, try to make couple 100,000 and, just be good with that and be a dad. But I'm like, no, that's not what I want to do. I want to be better. And this is what I was meant to do. And this is what I've done my entire life. I'm probably not capable of doing anything else besides, what else am I going to do? So decided just to put in the time, and really what happened was I took ownership of my swing. My father-in-law is my teacher, but I said, his name is Dennis Tiziani. And I said, Tiz, this is what I want to do. I'm like, I feel like this is what's going. I was long across the line when I was playing poorly. I'm like, I got to get this club under control at the top. I'm like, it's just all over the place. And, then it leads to, different impact positions, different releases, all this kind of stuff. You're trying to save it. It just wasn't very consistent when it was off. So I think the biggest thing is I just went to work harder, took ownership, and just kind of rededicated myself to getting better and trying to get better, and then taking my time doing it. Just gave myself a little bit of a break, and I would slowly see progress. If it was in a practice round or in a pro-am, and then I didn't see it in the tournament, but I'm like, hey, you know what? I was doing some better things and tried to get the ball going in one direction, and that was a draw. So I just kind of went back to some basic things, and I think communicated with my teacher, my father-in-law, better. And we went to work, and I put the time in the winter time. We were in a trailer. I had mirrors around, so I just kept putting it in the spot that I wanted to put it in, never meaning it to get as short as it did the top of my backswing, but found out really quick that you can play from there and be pretty consistent. And that's what happened. My consistency really came back, drove the ball, which was the problem before, started driving the ball really a lot better, and then started seeing signs, which gave me the confidence to keep doing that. And I still work. The funny thing is I still work on the same things today as I did back in 2005 when I decided I needed to put in more time.
How long did it take you, do you think, to like really own that confidence, like you could do it under the gun and you knew it was going to hold up?
It was so 2005, the winter of 2005, and the early part of 2006 is when I really put in the time. Played Pebble Beach, ended up finishing like 14th or something like that, but kind of scraped it around. But then got in a couple more tournaments here or there, played Houston and finished third. That gave me some confidence. But then it was the US Open at Winged Foot that year in 2006. I was right up near the lead going into Saturday. And then actually played, I don't know what I ended up finishing. But anyways, I drove the ball really well on the weekend, in contention at a US Open. Tough place to drive the ball as well. So that gave me a ton of confidence, and even had the Ryder Cup Captain's eye that year. I think it was Tom Lehman in 06 overseas. So even had his eye, so it really happened fairly quick for me, but I got some real good confidence boosting events under my belt and showed me that things were definitely going in the right direction.
So that was pretty important what you just said, some confident boosting events.
Yeah.
So that's in tournament competition. It's not watching it fly at your home golf course the way you want it to fly.
Right.
Right.
You're exactly right. And there's all sorts of different levels. And like I said, I would start to see it on the range in the wintertime up off of mats, right? And up in Wisconsin. Then when I went to an event, I started seeing some better shots in the practice round. And then I took it to even the pro-ams. You want to play well. At least I do. I want to play well in the pro-ams because it's the day before and all that kind of stuff. So then I started seeing some better results even during the pro-ams. So then, slowly it just started creeping into, under the gun shots and, during those competitive days that's where it really means everything. And then when you can do it under the biggest stage, like at a US Open, and drive the ball well and do some better things, that really gave me the confidence knowing that I was on, going in the right direction.
So Steve, when you feel it creeping the other way, and even back at that 06 US Open, when you feel it creeping long and across, will you will you add some intention or add some feels while you're out on the golf course of feeling like it's laid off? Are you ever a swing thought guy out there, or do you just kind of think more target oriented and just let it go?
Yeah, I got to the point of where it was so ingrained of where it got pretty short. It's shorter now just because I've gotten older and I can't get it back there as far, but it got to a point where it was pretty ingrained in there, and I had a couple of really simple swing thoughts, and one of them was a grip pressure thing. I like to grip it really firmly in my left hand, and I noticed when I did that, it kind of kept it in the shorter spot and a real solid spot. So then it became, almost a rotational thing for me, where I didn't have a lot of set, but I had nice rotation, got the club in a good spot. Then I could actually swing my arms as fast as I could because I really didn't have a lot of unhinging to do because the club was right in front of me, because I didn't take it back very far. And then I didn't set it very far either. So it became a rotational thing. And that's really what I still work on today. Nice firm grip pressure at the top and this rotation on the way back. And then I can really try to hit it as hard as I want because I don't have a lot to unhinge. And the club seems to be pretty much in my center all the time. And, it's been pretty consistent. So again, I've worked on those same things, and they weren't really big things after a while, but the same simple little things since, 15 years ago, 16 years ago.
You said arm speed allowed you to swing your arms as fast as you could swing them.
Yep.
Key to distance right there.
It is. And it's hard too, because I try to help my daughters now and my wife, and my wife she sets it so much, and I'll try to swing like that. I'm like, okay, if I were to set that really far and deep like that, well, that's got to unhinge. So you got to with that arm speed for me, because I don't have a lot of unhinging to do, I can swing them as fast as I want. And then, just let the club fall down a little bit. But if you really hinge it like my wife, or, a lot of these guys, that's how they hit it the long ways too. They hinge it a lot. They have a big set, but at some point that's got to unhinge, right? That's got to come back to straight, but they're moving their arms and their body as fast as they can. And they're using their hands as fast as they can and trying to time all that up. And that's the key, isn't it, Hal? To time all that movement up with each other. But fortunately, I got it to a spot where I didn't have a lot of movement, and so when I start to help my daughters, I got to try to okay, what does that feel like? So I'll put it up there and I'm like, wow, that feels awful. I got to unhinge all that.
Well, all I know is you pitching the ball, shorter shots. You look so dynamic doing it. It's unbelievable because you don't have a lot of unhinging to do with that.
Yeah. Thank you.
And you're world class, no doubt about it at it. So something to be admired by many.
Yeah, thank you. And I think people if other players have started to do that more, that business of hinging a lot on the way back is kind of gone away. It's become more of an arm swing type of movement, some rotation to the right and then some rotation to the left. And just Jason Day does it, almost to an extreme. He looks like he doesn't do any hinging at all, right? So it's I think a lot of guys have found that it's a pretty simple way to play, and it's repetitive, which is what we're all looking for, and they can do that on a daily basis.
Yeah, one of the things I say around here all the time, Chase can echo this if he wants, but I don't like to see the hinge stand out. I like a hinge that I don't even see, basically. It's just part of the rotational motion.
Right.
You're shaking your head. You like that too, huh?
I like that too. I actually said that to my daughter yesterday. I'm like, actually my wife, because my wife likes to just snap it away right away, and I'm like, can we just move our arms and have that hinge happen as we're rotating and turning back? So I agree with you. It's almost like, and Tiger does that so well too. If you watch him, his arms are going so far back. I mean, it doesn't look like his wrists are hinging at all, but they're rotating. And then when he gets to the top, I mean, he's hinged, he's fully, loaded, in a great set position, but it doesn't look like he did anything to get there, and to your point, it's like, it's all together. It's just all together. And it looks like it's an effortless position to get to.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Chase.
I was just gonna say the best are setting it, but that doesn't look like they're forcing the set. Like I like how you guys both worded it. It's funny. To me, there's two types of pitchers or chippers. There's the Jason Day, like you said so eloquently, is almost on the other end of the spectrum of no set at all. Yeah. You're on the less set, and then there's Sevy and like the older school guys, let's say, that set it more. And I've always been a setter. I've always set it more, and I've always tried to do it more like you guys, and I've always had a hard time finding the bottom that way. And I think if like you figured out the best way to do it for yourself, and that's the way that works. And I think we've got to figure out who you are and what works for you, and then make it work. And I'll echo again, I think what you guys said about, we don't want to really see, like, some teachers teach max set, some teachers teach max width. And I think it's a blend between the two. I don't think either is necessarily the answer.
I think you're right. I'm no teacher. I try to be one, but it's with my kids and wife, but it's like whatever you can control the club face with. And Hal, you look like you had control when you're playing your best, and you can tell me if I'm high or what, but it just looked like you had so much control of the club face. And that's what the best players in the world do. They know where, the back of their left hand is compared to that club face. And they can control that, whatever they want to do coming into the impact area. If they're like, it's a little behind, you can get it up ahead, get it back into there. If it's, if you've already maybe released it a touch early, you can kind of hold it off. Or if you're drawing it, you're just rotating it. It's just, I think the best players that have ever played this game, they just have such good control of their club face and know where it is at all times.
Well, when I was playing, I use the term around here a lot, quiet hands. If I had to be active with my hands, I knew something else wasn't moving.
Yeah.
And, I hated when I felt like my hands had to be fast, because I was having to correct something if my hands had to be fast, because you're right. I knew where the club face was.
Yeah.
If the club face was out of position, then I had to speed up somewhere to try to make it happen before impact. Sure. And, the sudden burst of speed is the correction. It's never the mistake.
Good point. Yeah, I've never thought about that, but you're right. It's and everybody's different, I think, and that's the cool part and the unique part of this game is that when you guys are teaching or helping anybody, it's you got to take into account what they're doing, and it may not be your way, but some way that that they can do, because it's everybody swings at it different. To Chase's point, I mean, I'm trying to get my wife to kind of like not hinge it, but I don't know if that's good for her, right? She likes to whip that up there like Sevy, but then all of a sudden she doesn't turn. I mean, it's like you got to be able to do it all, but it's not for everybody. It's a hard game.
The blending of the wrists and how her arm bends, or how everybody's arms bend, to me is the key. And we talk about that. Hal and I talk, like, Hal was he always said he was a late setter, but he kind of bent his arm. So he would kind of set the club this way. And so a lot of ladies will overset their right arm, and their wrist hinges their wrist angles get all messed up. So then, to your point, they don't turn. Like right here, I haven't turned my chest at all because the right arm bent too much. And so, yeah, it's a crazy game that we're all trying to. You guys have conquered it and played it at the highest level, but even you guys are still grinding on it and trying to learn and get better. You've mentioned Tiger a couple times, and I want to. Hal mentioned your short game. I want to talk about your putting a little bit. You see it on the Golf Channel and stuff, Tiger talking to you about putting and this and that. And I want to hear a little bit about your commandments on putting and help our listeners at home with their putting.
Yeah, well, my deal with putting has always been to keep it super simple. From day one when I was a junior golfer, to how I play today. And that's really, I'm a left-sided putter. I'm a left-handed putter, let's say. And again, I like to grip it. And I've asked a ton of players, how firm their grip is when they're putting it. And you'll get, all sorts of different responses. I've asked the best putters in the world, and again, it's all over the place. I like to grip it really firm in my left hand. I like to keep that dish in the back of my left hand very firm. And I've always just kind of putted that back of my left hand down the line. So really, it becomes simple in my own mind to have a straight back. I try to go straight back and straight through, and then try to keep that blade as straight as I can. With the firm back of my left hand. And that's gotten harder as I've gotten older. It's I don't want to, grip it as tight for whatever reason. Could be nerves, could be whatever, but it's that part's gotten a little bit harder. But when I was putting my best, I locked that thing in there and tried to move that pendulum, that triangle that I created between my shoulders all the way down to my hands. Just try to move that. Excuse me.
You've putted with, from what I've noticed, with the toe on the ground a little bit more, maybe a higher handle. Is that something on purpose, or is that just comfortable, or it's kind of worked its way that way over time?
It kind of has always been that way. I think the putter is really not set up for me. I think it was, not it needed to be a little bit more upright. And I started putting with this putter, excuse me. And it just became what I, it became what I got used to, basically, and how the rotation is. If I ever try a putter now that the heel is sitting on the ground, there's more rotation, more hook rotation to that putter. So that's a challenge. I've tried to get that heel on the ground, but it's the way the putter comes through, based on that lie of the putter that I have grown to like. So I just keep it that way. It's not ideal. I don't, like when I watch my daughters, I don't try to teach that. I like to get that heel on the ground. I think it would be easier for me to keep that thing square if I had the heel on the ground. But that would mean I'd keep my hands in the same position, but then just, make the putter a little bit more upright, and then that would make it easier to keep square. But I think I've just grown to like it that way and like the rotation of the putter going through that way. And I've always just kept it that way.
So I want to go back to something you said earlier. Sounds to me like so goes Steve Stricker's driver, so goes Steve Stricker, the player. Is that right? Kind of.
It was back when I was playing poorly. I drove it awful. And then when I was playing my best and got up to number 2 in the world, I putted really well. I had a good short game, and I drove it really well. And if you can do those 3 things, you're going to hit okay irons. I tried not to make any bogeys or any mistakes. My bogey avoidance number was really good at the time. I just said, you know what, and I got a little bit smarter and just said, don't fire at pins that are uncomfortable. Put them in the center of the green. 2-putt, get your par. There'll be other opportunities, par 5s, wedges in your hands where that's my strength. So I played smarter, but I figured if I could chip, putt, and drive the ball well, you're going to do really well on tour. And I just saw, just on that same note, Cam Smith won yesterday, and he was the first guy in quite some time, I forget the number of years, that he'd led the event in strokes gained putting and strokes gained driving it. So that shows you, if you can putt it and drive it, you're going to do okay. Yeah.
Well, you won't remember this, I don't think. You and I played together at Houston the first 2 rounds. After we left TPC and went to the Golf Club of Houston members course. Do you remember us playing together?
I do remember that.
And you had a bad 2 days of driving the ball. And, I could tell your short game was unbelievable. And so you described yourself early on right there. One of the things that we talk about in here all the time, and I try to get people to understand this, when you saw then that you had to improve your driver to be the player you dreamed about being.
Yep.
But you would never turn your driver into your strength because your short game was so good. I've seen players destroy their game as a player trying to turn a weakness into a strength because they didn't work as hard on their strength.
Right.
And you agree with that theory?
I do agree with that theory. And I had to go to work on my weakness, but yet you have to keep your strengths at the highest level because those are your strengths. If you put those on the back burner, all of a sudden those become a weakness, right? So you still have to, I still putt, when I was playing out there, playing at the highest level that I ever played at, I still putted and chipped to no end, but I also worked on all my weaknesses too. I knew I needed to be a better driver of the ball. I knew I needed to be a better iron player. I never was a great iron player. I was a good short iron player, but never a great like mid iron to long iron player. But I knew if I could drive it in the fairway, I was good enough to get it on the greens, let my putter, do what it should do. And if I missed, keep working on that short game, because short games out there, putting in short game is king out there on tour. And if you can't do that, you're always going to struggle. And that's what you see nowadays. Guys have unbelievable short games and they all seem to putt it well. And I was no different. I still work very hard on my strengths.
Steve,
there you go. I hope everybody was listening to that.
Steve, you've played in a ton of programs. What's one mistake that you'd like to see amateurs or the guys you play with never make again?
Oh boy. I think it's just course management skills. I play so much with my daughters and wife, and, just like laying up on a par 5, they'll lay it up into a bunker or something like that, and then blade it out of the bunker. But if they didn't lay it up in the bunker, they probably would have knocked it on the green, 2-putted, maybe made a birdie, stuff like that. But I think it's just the course management stuff. And maybe they're not, thinking, hey, I want to lay it up in the bunker, but they hit a bad shot to get it in there. But take that out of play altogether. Don't hit a club that can get you in the bunker, or don't take on more than what you're even capable of doing. Like if it's 240 to cover the bunker and this guy's like, hey, well, if I max out my 3-wood, I can cover the bunker. But he hits it a little thin. Now he's in the bunker. Now he ends up making a 6, so it can happen really fast. The guy could have laid up short of it, and then knocked it out. You know what I mean? So just don't even take clubs that can get you into trouble. And I think the biggest thing is, course management. And obviously they don't get to practice as much, and short game, is not very strong usually. So, but they can sure cut down on the number of strokes if they just manage their way around the course a little bit better.
No doubt. Steve, thanks for being on. Man, great job at the Ryder Cup. You pulled everybody together and it looked great on TV. I hope, one thing that I was worried about, you might know the answer to this. Whistling Straits is a hard golf course to walk.
It is hard.
I bet there were a lot of people that got hurt up there following.
There were people I saw sliding down the hill, not wanting to slide down the hill. They had a little bit, maybe a couple too many beers or something like that. And but you know what? Wisconsin people and the U.S. people turn out for that Ryder Cup, and it was a great atmosphere. And we couldn't, like I said earlier, we couldn't ask for anything more. It was a special experience for sure.
Well, we both know Herb Kohler very well. He's been so good at golf. I was so happy for him that Whistling Straits looked amazing on TV, and then the American team just rose to the occasion with your great leadership. So thanks for being on Be the Right Club today, Steve.
I don't know how many times we'll say, be the right club today. We say that. My daughters say it. I'll say it. That's one of the most iconic little sentences in the game of golf. So when I saw the name of your podcast, I'm like, why wouldn't it be called that, right? So thanks for having me on, Hal, Chase. Appreciate you guys having me.
Steve, thanks so much.
the right club today. Yes!